Welcome to the knee pain webinar to relieve your knee pain. It's myself and Dr. Jen Kinder. She's going to intro herself too as well. But again, we want to make this personal to you. Take some notes. If you have questions for you or a friend, make sure you save those to the end. We're going to answer those for you. Want to take over there, Jen?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. I know some people will be watching this on their own time, which I totally get. I'm Dr. Jen Kinder. I am associate professor at UCSF, and I'm also the owner of a, oops, I hear people coming in. I'm also the owner of I hear so loud people. That's okay. I'm also the owner of Rehab Fitness and Wellness, which is now a physical therapy consulting business. So I do a lot of talks and working on some stuff that I'm excited to share with everybody later on as I get more time with it. But today we're talking about from rehab to performance for knees. I think a lot of it that whenever I have patients, I've been a physical therapist for about 15 years, and I love treating knees. It's actually one of my favorite things. I really treat a lot of pelvic health now. That's my main focus, but I treat as a holistic approach. So I treat a lot of mamas who just want to keep up with their kids or have had pregnancy, postpartum issues. I've also treated a lot of female athletes. I've also treated a lot of men as well with knees. I think it's really fun just treating knees in general. So when Chris was talking about different regions of the body that we could talk about, is let's do knees. So I kiddingly call this also from rehab to performance, just a little play on words there. So yeah, disclosures, I am the owner of Rehab Fitness and Wellness. I'm currently actually not treating patients at this moment, only because I've transitioned to UCSF and I'm awaiting to start my clinical care back up. I'm currently teaching graduate students and a lot of research. And so it's a very big transitioning time for me. And I want to say thank you to Terranovafitness, because without Chris and his team, I don't think I would have handled this year. I can just clearly say that, because I've been doing the virtual workouts from home. He lent out equipment. You're going to see it in my pictures. And it has been so key to my survival and my family's survival, because if I'm not doing well, the whole family isn't going to be doing well. So I just want to say thank you. And these virtual workouts have just been life-saving. So
yeah, thanks.
It's that me time. It's that me time. And it's actually, I was never like a workout at home kind of person, but because I was forced to, and like with your guys' coaching has been just invaluable. I can't even thank you enough.
That's awesome. Thanks for saying that.
Of course. So just have to clarify, I'm not diagnosing or treating at all during any of my webinars or any of my informative talks. What I hope to bring across along with Chris, because he really is that performance side, I'm trying to add the rehab side. And then with us joining together is that middle part. And that's where my whole business name came from, Rehab Fitness and Wellness, because it's really taking somebody from rehab to fitness and then performance, right? That's this gray zone. So it's so much fun to work with Chris because he knows a lot of that, and it's awesome. So just to clarify, contact your provider for any diagnosis and any clearance that you might need if you're having some acute knee pain or chronic knee pain and you just need that clearance and diagnosis. I encourage you to get that. But hopefully you can pick up something today, maybe even one thing. Let's go for it. So what I've really, and feel free to jump in if you do have questions. I know we have a limited amount of time, so I just want to make sure I do get your questions.
Really quick, so if you have any questions, you guys do have access to the chat, so you can put that there too as well.
Yes. And can you see the chat, Chris? Just curious.
I'll keep an eye on it.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So what I was tailoring this talk for was a lot of patellofemoral, runner's knee, jumper's knee. It's also called moviegoer's knee. And now I think we can call it Zoom knee. Seriously, Zoom knee. Because what these are is when someone's sitting in a 90-degree position of the knee and their mechanics just get completely off. And so this Zoom knee that we're getting just from sitting a lot at the computer, I'm right there with you. And also on the flip side, chronic pain. So maybe somebody who was injured a while back and they've just never been able to get back to where they want to be. That's where Chris and I really want to get you to, because that stinks. Because from like a physical therapy point of view and also fitness, when you're limited in any body part and you're unable to get back to just walking, just going for a hike. Now we're talking about aerobic fitness and cardiovascular health. And that's where we can go into diabetes and we can go into other conditions that we don't want to become chronic. So first steps, we always have to look above and below the knee. So some people will say, my knee hurts. Why are you looking at my hip? Why are you looking at my ankle? Why are you looking at my back? How is my back pain related to my knee pain? Oh, it's related. So it's related. And that's part of my job, is to look at those areas, as well as Chris's job, because he knows, and that's why I send everybody to him, because when they're ready for performance, I'm like, go there, because he knows to look at all of these things. So range of motion at all of these joints is important, because if you're lacking in a range of motion at your back per se, you might try to take over at another joint, and then it just runs down the line. It's like a domino effect. So we really want to look at that. I also want to include the importance of stretching. I feel like stretching always gets like the, oh, I'll do it later, and then never do it. I've totally been the person that does it too. But man, stretching is so important. And even just a simple yoga, like a 15-20-minute yoga routine, or just simple stretches, like when you're sitting at your desk for so long, making sure that you're getting full body stretches, that actually helps your nervous system glide. And I'll talk about why the nervous system can be related to your knee coming up here when I talk about chronic pain, something called central sensitization. So we'll talk about that. So when you're doing stretches, the big ones are these 2 joint muscle stretches. So the calf muscle, the quads, the hamstrings, the hip flexors, those all cross 2 joints, not just one. So believe it or not, your calf muscle crosses the back of your knee as well as the back of your ankle. Your quad crosses the front of your hip as well as the front of your knee. Your hamstrings cross the back of your hip and your knee. And then the hip flexor crosses at the low back as well as the front of the hip. So these 2 joint muscles are really important when we're talking about sitting a lot, because when they get tight, and also when we get tense, our autonomic nervous system, it's king and queen of the body. So it's going to tense up things. And if we can get to deep breathing and just get some stretching going on, it can change up your nervous system and get you back to a more relaxed mode. So I'm a big believer in stretching. And Chris, do you want to add anything in with that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that separates a mediocre coach or a practitioner and a great coach is they pay attention to the dog that's not barking. And what do I mean by that? It's the same thing that happens with me. People come in with knee pain. I look above and below. So you can get mediocre coaches that name the piece on the chessboard, but actually don't know how it moves around the chessboard. Mm-hmm. And again, it's above and below. That's why it's so important, because if you have a knee pain issue, it affects things up and downstream. It affects how you actually drive the car. So this holistic approach is so important. So if you're talking to a practitioner, you're talking to a coach, they better be talking about things above and below. It's so crucial. And that's how we solve most of these issues. We look where other people don't even think about.
Exactly. It's awesome. I always love Chris's examples. They're always right on. So first steps here. So when somebody injures their knee, really any body part, core work. So they're like, I can't do anything. No, you actually can. Use what you have, because that feeds into your body's still connected. So your body's still connected, and it's going to feed into that area and help with movement in general, and just keep you strong where your knee needs to be stronger. So meaning all movement really starts with your core. So if you hurt your knee and you don't do anything and you just let your core go, now you're like back behind in your recovery, because you're going to have to work on your core and your knee. Keep up the core work, keep up your arm work, because that actually relates to your core. So the first steps are, what exactly do you have wrong with your knee? That's where you want to get diagnosed and figure that out. And that can help you figure out what stage within the recovery you're at. So that's where in these slides, I think our last webinar, I was telling Chris, I didn't add that many pictures. And now I'm like, oh, I added a ton of pictures. But I tried to do that so that you could, on your own, sort of see, where am I at on this stage? Do I need to start at square one? Totally fine. You won't be there long, hopefully. And then you progress. Are you at the chronic stage? Even within the chronic stage, you might want to go back to the beginning stages of recovery exercises and just work your way through those. I often teach my exercises. I've had many clients come to me and they're like, oh, I know clamshells, I know this. I'm like, you don't know how I teach it. So I'm very critical about, are they engaging their core before they lift a leg? And so that's a big thing that we'll talk about. Maintenance. And then this, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Really quick. What you said is so vitally important because people will see an example of an exercise and think they're doing it correctly. It's very similar. I speak Russian, and I'll speak to somebody who's fluent and they correct my accent or they correct my emphasis or things of that nature. So anything can look like you're doing it correctly, but we have an algorithm. We got to go through a checklist. And so what she said is so important. Clamshells, it's probably one of the most butchered exercises I see. So she's definitely going to touch on that too as well.
So, and even as I hurt my knee, gosh, it was like last year, 2 years ago. And I'm a PT. I should be able to fix myself. We should be able to. I'm a human. I need somebody to help me out. So I took some time off from the fitness and from like the weight training because I literally couldn't bear weight on my knee for a while. I had a pretty bad bone bruise, which was very enlightening. And so Chris was super helpful with that. And I need to be watched on my form because once you are injured, your body is smart and you still need to get to and from the kitchen. I'm going to get you there, but I'm going to have you walk in a very strange way that you don't even realize that you've now adapted to. And coming out of that, because that can lead to more chronic pain issues, and coming out of that, having somebody watch your form so that they can help you realize, oh, your knee is bending in quite a bit. And you're like, it is? Oh man, I didn't even feel that. It's so crucial. So we'll look at some exercises from beginning to more dynamic. And that central sensitization, that goes along with this chronic pain, and that goes along with the adaptations that your body makes once you're injured and don't really ever fix it. You just let it go and you start adapting in this odd way of walking, odd way of lifting things. And then even your nervous system can be heightened so that people start saying, I can't do this. I can't do that because of my knee. What can you do? Let's start changing the narrative. And that's a big thing in PT right now, is changing the narrative of this, I can't do this. It's more like, what does your body like to do? And guide it into that and get you back to things. So there's a lot about pain science going on. It's pretty exciting. I don't know if you want to add in with that, Chris.
That's definitely something I touched very briefly. They did with ACL injuries. I've rehabbed 7 personally. I got them better than they were before. There was a great study on functional MRI scans. That's basically, they can figure out what's going on in your brain. And with ACL injuries, there's actually plasticity. There's actually a disturbance in that communication between the driver and the car. And so everything Jen is talking about, it's actually been proven through science. And that's some of the stuff I'm going to touch on too as well. Just because the knee pain is there doesn't mean it's affecting things above and below. That chest analogy, if you move that chest piece, it's affecting the gameplay of everything on the board.
Exactly. Awesome. So here's just a couple things. So if I have somebody who's like, say, a patellofemoral or just some chronic pain stuff going on, and they've been cleared and you figured out what's going on, these are some really good ones to start with. These are like, people want to say they're boring, but you're only as strong as your pyramid base. So these are really critical for that pyramid base for the knee. So you're laying down and you can't really tell here, but hopefully you can hear. My hip is rotated outwards slightly. So it's externally rotated, so rotated outwards slightly. So I can get more of that VMO, that vastus medialis oblique muscle, because there's a lot of outside muscles and factors that contribute to pulling the knee out of place, the kneecap. So we want to emphasize the middle component so that we can guide that knee in a good tracking position. So this is just doing a straight leg raise with emphasis on that. The next one is a lateral straight leg raise. So getting the glute med. The glute med muscle is huge in actually controlling your knee joint. So getting your hip stronger in a good position can help your knee so that the knee tracking stays in place over the toe. Okay, so that's just it. And then we have our clamshell. Like he said, this gets butchered so much. You really want to engage your core when you do this so that you're not rocking your hip back and forth. So the next time you do this during your virtual workouts or in-person workouts or any workout, you want to engage your core and make sure when you open the top leg, does your hip roll all the way back? Are you moving here? You don't want to be. You want to feel it right there in the back of your hip. That's your goal with the clamshell.
Okay. And if I might go in here, like something you do touch on is what a lot of people will say when they go and say, I'm doing this clam, I'm doing this. If it's easy to you, that's actually a signal you are not engaging the proper muscles. Like every exercise Dr. Kinder is showing here, I can make this harder by giving you certain techniques, pushing into the floor, creating tension. Strength is not just an effort, it's a skill set. So actually every single one of these exercises, I get big, strong dudes. They'll roll their eyes when I give them this, and then I teach them a few techniques. They avoid eye contact with me because they can't believe how this exercise got so hard.
Exactly.
Yeah. So again, if you try these at home and it's easy to you, it's very similar to when I'm speaking Russian and a native speaker says, hey, I know what you're trying to say, but the emphasis needs to be here, not there. So just keep that in mind.
And exactly. And I tell my patients this all the time. It's especially like my chronic pain patients and just people have had injuries for a while, but yet they're still working out. I'm like, you are strong. It's just that your brain is not connected to your muscle in the right way. And that's where this neuromuscular control comes in. And that's so critical is what we're doing is we're recruiting the muscles. Like we're like, I can do squats and I'm fine. Why are you having me do this? You still have knee pain, right? Something's going on where that brain is not connected to that muscle. It's not activated. So let's get all of our soldiers in place to help out the knee. So you won't be in this stage probably too long usually, because what this stage is that gaining that neuromuscular control, that recruitment to just get all of the muscles firing so that everybody's doing their job.
Yeah, and last analogy I'll give here, the same thing with, I'll have some people that are very strong, but say they can squat tons of weight, but if I push them, they fall over. And so when you're thinking about exercise, I want you to think about two things. There's your hardware and your software. And your hardware is essentially like your abs. It looks good. I can lift a lot of weight, but I can push you off your center of balance so easy because your software program is malfunctioning. And that's that pyramid Dr. Jen Kinder talks about is it's the software program, that the programming, the ones and zeros, that is so important because that's what gives rise to injuries. And this is actually how I get people to get better. You should actually be better after a knee pain more times than not because you're paying attention to these things that give you that nice wide base.
Exactly. But I'm noticing my son, he threw in this tiger. This is pretty funny. I'm just noticing that. I didn't see that when I was doing these. Nice. He does that, holding it. So I had him hold the band. So then 4-way hips, we go from laying down. We want to get you standing up as soon as we can, but of course, pain is the guide. Okay. So standing up, and now we're going to exercise those, get strong and recruit those muscles in standing in gravity position. So we often don't give enough credit to gravity. Gravity is always pushing down on us, and it's a lot of weight. We want to encourage getting up and standing if you're past that acute phase, and strengthening glute med in standing because you walk in standing, strengthen the front quads in standing, as well as here I'm coming across. If you can tell what that looks like, I'm coming across to get my adductors. The next stage after this would be crab walking. So getting a loop around the ankles and stepping side to side. And then I love lateral lunges. And this is one that Chris added in for my program personally, and it made a huge difference. That when I could do a lateral lunge, just a stationary lateral lunge, no weight, it would made all the difference because now you're starting to add in dynamic movement. I don't know if Chris wants to like demonstrate or something, but you're strengthening all of the hip muscles in one. From a rehab point of view, I like to isolate, but not stay there very long. Then we start to create dynamic movement as soon as we can to incorporate the whole body. But it really is a step-by-step process. It totally depends on what you have. So yeah, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, Chris, but.
Yeah, that's fine. I like that. So lateral split squat, so one of the things we talk about is this multi-directional. So this is a static, and I like to start people statically, meaning nothing, your center of gravity.
That's it. That's exactly it. Mm-hmm.
You're not moving. So this is part of my talk is confirming with progressions. If that feels good, then we can start going to more of the dynamic stuff. And again, this is the major mistake I see with people that don't have that expert eye is they'll skip a progression, they'll assume and then take on more risk than they need to take on.
So perfectly said. Yeah. That's totally it. Yeah. And that is exactly where, when I started my own practice, that's why I did it, because I would see somebody in the clinic they get better and they come back 6 months later. I'm like, hold up, you were better. Oh, I entered the gym. And then they start feeling it. There is a serious like gym mentality that patients get because they've been injured. And then they want to get back. And it's like this, this crowd component where they just want to take on too much, Chris said. So having that guidance is so critical to just get you over that little bit of a hump and get you going. So I'm glad he said that. Glutes, here's the TNF ball. So grateful for my medicine ball from Chris. It's been so great. So progressions, something without the ball, right? Just get those glutes firing. We progress then to having a larger range of motion and really firing up the glutes. And then when you can, single leg. Key things to look for this, and this is where coaching can really help. We want to make sure that your hips are not rotating up and down, that you're coming up very clean and stable, and that your knee is not moving inward or outward too far. We want to keep that in line. If Chris wants to add to this.
Yeah, and again, all these exercises, another way to think about any of these exercises, there's a soft style and a hard style. Soft and hard. If you've ever heard somebody say, I did a plank for an hour, that means they did a soft style plank. It's very similar to I jogged gingerly for an hour versus I'm Usain Bolt and I'm doing an all-out sprint. So if any of these exercises are easy to you, that's actually a signal you're doing a soft version, meaning your technique or your fluency in contracting and engaging your muscles needs to be upgraded. And so just keep that in mind. And it's, again, above and below. A good analogy is your hip is like the train track and your knee is the train. So if your train track is unstable and you're running and that train goes over that crooked train track, it's not the train's fault. They went over a train track that had a lot of hazard there. So that's why it's so important to pay attention above and below.
Exactly. And then I love this one. This is a key one that I incorporate with my patients. And so it's like this middle ground. This is what I call a gravity eliminated squat, because what I'm doing is I'm squatting, but I'm taking out gravity and I'm just right in that bridging point of getting ready to stand up. And another key one that I know I love that Chris incorporates a lot is kneeling's a big one. I don't have a picture in here, but you also want to be careful if your knee does hurt when you kneel on it. You obviously don't want to do that. But when you're at a stage, you might surprise yourself. And if you can get into a one kneeling position, single knee kneeling position, that goes back to developmental stages as to when we learned how to first walk. And it's a big physical therapy component about that is the stage of the development and how the body works. So yeah, see what he's doing, he's incorporating all of those muscles in his hip. And I'm actually giving a talk coming up for Pacifica runners. I'm going to talk more about this, about our fascial system. So that's another key component for really a lot of injuries. But so if you can do something like this, the single knee, this is such a great way to, before you get up to standing position. And Chris can totally add on here.
Yeah, and again, that's part of it is confirming with progressions is so important because there's compound interest happening here. You're either paying it or earning it. And when you skip these stages, you run into trouble. And again, it's the difference between losing weight and keeping the weight off. It's the same thing here. And again, these exercises are so great because it's a squat, but it's a progress squat. And so you're taking out as much risk as possible and stacking the benefit, and you're building that benefit. You have this big, on the table, you have all the benefit here and you can cash it in versus somebody else who's just taking too much risk and then they get injured again and it creates this vicious cycle.
Yeah. And here you can get, so we call this a closed chain exercise so that you can get full extension of the knee and you get some flexion. And again, closed chain is typically easier on joints than open chain, like saying kicking, because now the foot's like a free for all. And it's like, all the other joints are like, all right, we're just going with it. Versus here, we're really creating stability, but now we're getting more dynamic in a more gentle fashion by taking out gravity. And then balance and proprioception. I know so many people are like, balancing on one leg, how boring. I'm like, oh, you believe, like, This is so key to getting back to running and just getting that dynamic stability going on for yourself. So single knee, if you can do 15 seconds, work your way up to 30 seconds, work your way up to 1 minute. Then when that becomes easy, do that 5 times. So 5 times 1 minute, but definitely work your way up. If it hurts at 15 seconds, you go to 10 seconds. If it hurts at 10 seconds, you go to 5. You do what you can. And then you stand on a pillow, because now you're creating that dynamic stability where you really have to work on that stability. Of course, I always have to say, if you need something to hold on to, use some sturdy support for sure. And this is one of my absolute favorite exercises and is overlooked by so many PTs. In fact, just something I'm very passionate about here is this quarter squat. Single leg quarter squat. You can tell I'm barely bending my knee, right? But we do this motion all the time when we walk and when we run. So standing on one leg and then keeping your hips completely level, I should be able to draw a pencil across your hip bones when you come down a quarter squat. So that's one. If you do get pain with that, if you're seeing that your knee goes inward or you're dropping your other hip, that's a problem. You want to work on that. And Chris has really great cues, all the cues he gives to make sure that you can stay in a good position.
And if I may, love
course, yeah.
2 points here. You notice Dr. Kinder has her shoes off. Yeah. The game changes with the shoes off. So the stability you have with that shoe that's doing the artificial stability with you, when I get people that have good stability, I get them to take their shoes off and get them on this AirX pad, the game changes. Now they can't rely on their shoe, which is super important. The other thing that's huge here that Jen points out is this motion on the right. You're doing this when you're running and walking. And so you want to dominate this position in a static position, because if you don't, and then you go dynamic and velocity and unpredictable chaos, you're assuming too much risk. So what I really love to do is confirm with progressions here.
That's awesome. Another one of my go-tos, absolute favorite here is strengthening this last piece of extension in the knee is so important, not hyperextension. We don't want to hyperextend. That's not good. But we do want to strengthen this last neuromuscular control and strength of your knee, especially if you've had like patellofemoral or something else, because you're going to be doing this motion. When you push off, when you run, you have to be able to extend within your hip and within your knee. And so just doing 3 sets of 10 of these, what it's called terminal knee extension. So terminal knee extension, TKE. And these, you get some TheraBand around. You want to make it level. Another mistake people will do is they have the TheraBand down like this. That's not it. No, we need to actually strengthen across the line of force there and make it perpendicular so that you're strengthening those muscles that cross the back of the knee as well as the front of the knee, because we're doing that extension.
If I may, this is actually one of my favorite exercises.
Oh, good. Yeah.
There's so many layers of benefit here. So the other benefit I also see people, it does mobilize the joint.
Yes. Yeah. The knee tracking. Exactly.
The knee tracking is huge. So there's so much benefit. It's that terminal knee stuff. Again, one of the things Dr. Kinder said, that VMO, especially with women, is after knee pain or during knee pain, the signal, the software is not functioning like it used to. And the other thing I love about this is you're pushing into the floor. So it's a closed chain movement. You're really mimicking walking, running, sprinting, things of that nature. So one of my absolute favorite exercises here. So much benefit. And
then one thing you want to watch for is just the hips as well. Make sure that they're not dropping when you do this kind of motion. You should be able to be nice and level and just move the knee. It's amazing. If people can try this, it's amazing when you've developed an adaptation pattern of walking, and when your knee when your hip just moves in place of the knee movement, like your hip should be able to be stable and your knee should be able to do the movement. So it's pretty interesting what you'll find. Another favorite here is, now we're trying to get more dynamic here, really fun one with runners. Again, I'll talk about this a lot in my next talk with Pacifica Runners Group, but more dynamic stability, more hip strength. You really want to watch for the hips. And actually, Terranova always has to watch me with my hips when I do on my left leg, just I have this tendency to just rotate my hips. And so I'm really working on it. Looks pretty good here. And then coming back up to standing. So that single leg dynamic is a really fun, good one. Strong strengthener. Oh, Chris, you want to add to this for sure?
Yeah, one of the things I like about this too is somebody with knee pain. For the sake of this talk, there's what we call knee dominant exercises and hip dominant exercises. And especially with somebody who has knee pain, I like to give a high ratio of hip dominant exercises. In addition, because there's so many things, the hip, especially with women, because their anatomy after knee pain, we know that there's deficits in certain movements in the hip. And so if you're not training in the hip, you're assuming a little bit more risk, because the knee to be healthy actually needs a healthy hip too as well, because they work hand in hand. It's like a marriage. They got to work together. So make sure you're getting hip dominant exercises, like those hip thrusts. Those are hip dominant too as well.
Exactly. And then lastly, sport specifics, right? So you can see that we've gone from just get you moving to then get more dynamic, then actually more sport specific. And I actually took a picture this morning to put in here, but just actually practicing runner movements. And I'll definitely be doing that more in my next talk here, but hiking, so cross training. If you can't run, then start just doing movements that strengthen the hip. So hiking is really good. Surfing is awesome because you get that lateral movement, really using the hips. Be careful of your knee, of course, if that bothers it. Don't do anything that bothers your knee. Hiking, stair climbing gets the glutes going, gets the hips going. Swimming, dance, because you're moving in all these different movements. Yoga, should add that in there. Yoga is awesome. And there's a big thing about the return to run rule. So 10% is not very much. So if you're going to want to get back to running and you've gone for a 30-minute walk, then you're going to add in 1 minute of jogging every 10 minutes and walk the rest. I know it sounds crazy, but if you want to do it safely, you really have to build that pyramid so that you don't go back. So really gradually building in that running into your walking program.
Yeah, and also switching your mindset.
Yes.
My main mentor, he basically is credited with creating the NFL Combine. When I was being mentored with him in Boston, Mike Boyle, I was around nothing but professional athletes. And I want you to treat yourself like a professional athlete that has a $7 million contract. They don't rush back to play. There's too much on the line. And so switching that mindset to how would I come back if I had a $7 million contract and I need to get into the playoffs, all that stuff. So switching that mindset is super important. Stephen Curry, if he has an injury, they're not rushing him back. There's too much on the line. And so they confirm with progressions, just like Jen has showed and just like I'm going to show. So definitely think about that. Am I having the amateur mindset or the professional athlete mindset? And what's good for them might as well be as good for us. Treat yourself like a professional.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have to rush ourselves way too much. So you can jump on I have a newsletter. If you go to www.refitwell.com, so you can subscribe to that if you want to, if you have questions. Again, I know it's, when we scheduled this, I was hoping to have my clinical care back up and running at UCSF, but it's not there yet. It's just the pandemic's just making everything slow. But I am on Instagram and I do have some stuff down the pipeline. So I'll, of course, announce those out for more fun stuff. But I am giving a talk with Pacifica runners April 24th. So you can join in with that if you'd like. Maybe talking about the fascial system and for training. So yeah, I'm gonna hand it over to Chris. I'm gonna stop my share screen. Does that sound good?
Yeah,
Chris?
awesome, perfect. Yeah. And then what I'm going to do is share my screen. Mine is about 5 to 6 minutes. And then I definitely want to answer some questions too as well.
Perfect.
So mine's about 5-6 minutes. And then we're definitely going to answer some questions. I'm going to build on some of the stuff Dr. Kinder talked about from the rehab side to the performance or fitness side. My sole purpose here with knee pain is to increase your luck. There are 4 types of luck that I'm aware of. One is blind, dumb luck. I'm not going to touch on that. I'm going to talk about a different type of luck. It's awareness, or the ability to notice things. So for example, if you're driving in a car by yourself, you turn the corner, you don't notice the hazard in the street, you're unlucky, you get in an accident because you didn't have awareness. Driving that same street, you turn the corner, your passenger, she notices a hazard in the street. She makes you aware of it. You become lucky and you avoid the accident. My sole purpose here is to make you luckier through awareness, so that when you're having conversations with professionals, when you're doing your own research, you can have luckier conversations. So I'm going to touch on that's the main focus here. I'm an athlete. I'm an injury. I'm an athlete. I'm an injury. I encourage everybody, I don't care where you are, treat yourself like an athlete. Value yourself like an athlete, because you need to perform in life. You might as well call yourself an athlete. I truly believe that. What's the best focus? I'll tell you what the focus we have. Look, I've rehabbed at least 7 major ACL injuries. I've gotten them back better than ever. I have videos of it. I got them from scared to even walk to jumping over a hurdle on a single leg and landing. I didn't get there day one. It took time. We had to confirm stuff. But here's what I believe is the best focus to have. This is the focus we have when I coach people. Imagine there's 2 different athletes. They both have the same injury. On the left side, he or she believes she has an injury. And now she has access to 60 to 90% of the rest of her body. There's other things she can do. Athlete on the right side, she believes she is an injury. And so she shuts off most of the training to the rest of the body. The other thing, I'm not making a case from like a Tony Robbins feel-good standpoint. I'm making a case from a very selfish, practical, tactical return on investment that you need to address on the left side. Because we know when you have an injury, just like Jen talked about, there's things in the central nervous system and there's things affecting above and below. So you might have an injury, but you're losing possibly your fluency on how to drive and maneuver the body. So super important. There are exceptions. You should actually become better than you were before, because you touch on some of the things Dr. Kinder and I are going to touch on too as well. So the knee pain is gone. Is the story over? No. This is akin to, I lost weight, but I gained it back. We want to keep the weight off. And this is what Dr. Kinder talks about. Some people will get rid of their knee pain and then they'll go off and do things right away that they were doing without the injury. The story's not over. So it's very important to have that mindset and get things to work in sync. So we have our body, we have the body parts, and we got to know they interact in certain ways, above and below. What happens in your knee might affect your back and vice versa. But here's the other thing that most people don't address, but Dr. Kinder did, is the driver. So you might have a knee pain issue, but we know through studies and practical experience, if you have a knee pain and you don't address how you drive the body, it's going to be affected. Think about, you got a flat tire, the tire's brand new, but if you haven't driven for 3 months, your ability to drive the car is different. And so we need to take this very holistic approach. Confirm with progressions, assuming invites risk. I'll say that again, confirm with progressions, assuming invites risk. My sole goal here is to increase your luck with awareness. So I'm going to talk about some of the ways when I coach people. I've coached at least 100 people, if not more, with knee pain and gotten them better. And the way I do it is I confirm with progressions, just like when I was mentored. If we are training an athlete with a knee pain and he or she has a multi-million-dollar contract, you can't take on risk. So in the NFL, strength and conditioning coaches actually have a grade. It's called games missed due to injury. And so they need to get the player back in the game, but also make sure they're robust so they can survive the whole season. And actually, a lot of times athletes come back better than before because now they're really focusing on things they probably neglected before. So I'm going to go over some examples of the things we confirm with. I'm not going to touch on all of these. This is a different conversation, but here are some of the things when you're having conversations, when you're doing your own research, you got to think about what's the intensity? How much volume? Again, that's something Dr. Kinder talked about with the 10% rule. Force reduction, probably one of the most important things. A lot of injuries, especially ACL, happen when you're trying to reduce force, when you're trying to cut. And if you're not training this is akin to your shock absorbers or your brakes on the car. Stabilization, Dr. Kinder touched on this a lot. It might be boring, but again, it's that software program. Again, I have so many strong guys that look strong, go by, I do the bump test, and they fall over because their software program is not functioning correctly. And if you have an unstable platform, what happens? Well, in the physical realm, OSHA says you need to fix that. So we'll talk about force production is something we play around with. Multi-planar, change of direction, super important. CNS is just a fancy way of saying the mind-body connection. It gets altered. That's the driver. That's the driver of the car. So we got 3 slides left and we're gonna answer some questions. I'm not gonna touch on all this. I just wanna make you luckier so that when you're doing your own research, when you're having conversations, you can say, what about this? And that practitioner should be able to tell you so much and wow you. If they can't, keep searching. So confirm with progressions. We start low intensity, low volume. So for example, when I change this philosophy, say somebody has back pain, knee pain, something of that nature, I'll have them doing stuff day 1. So I might start with some open chain stuff where there's no weight bearing. And I'm just confirming with progressions. Okay, that's good, that's good. Okay, that's enough for now. Low volume, earn your way to the next part. Then we progress to medium intensity or volume. So it's super important because if you don't confirm with progressions, you are assuming and taking on undue risk. Next up, to deceleration. Centric is just a fancy way of going slow. Your brake pads. And especially with knee pain, so important, especially with women, because the hip anatomy is a little bit different, is there's certain things after knee pain or during knee pain, your ability to go down and slow down is hindered. Super important, you gotta train this. Deceleration, I would say probably when you get to the fitness side is one of the most important things. Here's deceleration. Say you're about to cross the street and a car comes and you decelerate. If your shock absorbers or brakes are malfunctioning, what happens to your car? Similar thing happens to your knee. So when I'm coaching people, I actually can get them better because I'm working on these things they didn't pay attention to before. So deceleration training, so important for the knee, because what are you doing each time you run? You're absorbing force. Very important. Next up, acceleration and propelling. So accelerate, I don't care if you have no knee pain, no nothing. Again, I believe one way you can tell a mediocre coach is they have you sprinting day 1. I've been around professional athletes. Those coaches don't even have them sprinting day 1. Maybe it starts at 60, 70%. You earn your way up and create that nice base. You confirm with progressions. So for example, I might have you doing tempo runs at 30%. I might have you do it at 40%. I want to see, all right, we're safe, we can progress here. The other thing is propelling, super important. Anyone that I've trained that has an ACL injury, I've gotten them to do single leg hop jumps and land over a hurdle. It takes time to get there because there's a psychological component too as well. But what are you doing each time you run? You're propelling yourself forward. And we usually start with double leg, then we go to single leg, then we do multi-directional too as well. It's so important that you work with this. And some people are afraid of this. I got videos of stroke victims who couldn't balance on one leg. I actually got to do a case study on this. And he was 78 years old. And I got him jumping so high that he says he didn't even jump that high in high school. But how did I get there? I confirmed with progressions. It took us a while to get there. And what's so important, especially what Jen talked about, is that single leg kneeling position. Because that kind of dress rehearsal, that single leg stance in a non-weight bearing place. And you confirm with those progressions. So those are some of the things that I do. And the key here is not to just get you pain-free, is to actually get you better. And it happens all the time because I'll give you one example. We'll touch on the central nervous system stuff, and then we're gonna answer some questions. We know with ACL injuries, there's a disturbance in plasticity in the brain. And there's this thing called myelin. If you wanna read about it, you can read the Talent Code. And I would say one of my favorite coaching books, learning books of all time, is the Little Book of Talent. And what they found is with a very deep concentration and practice, you can actually create more myelin in your brain. You become more fluent. And that's why we can get people actually better, because before, where you're rushing through stuff, we teach you how to pronounce this movement very fluently and correctly. And again, these are some of the things, I'll make these slides available, is simply to increase your luck by making you a little bit more aware of things. And then we're gonna go to some questions. I know somebody submitted one question, and if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat here. I believe somebody had a question about anterior knee pain with outer knee pain injury from doing burpee. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of burpees. We do them sometimes. So the first thing I would do is I would figure out what the history, the case history is. That's super important. There's very few stock answers. For example, if you have a physical condition and you ask the doctor, what medicine should I take? What's the doses? What's the frequency? The doctor is gonna ask you some questions. But let's say for this, it's all about progressions. And I don't have people starting off doing burpees. We can mimic burpees just like Jen showed. She mimicked a squat this way. We can mimic burpees. We start people off, it can be like this, where we just work this movement back and forth. We can have you do burpees on a bench. So you're here, there, and back up. And so you're still doing the movement, but you're taking a lot of the risk out of the equation. Again, I'll harp on this again. I've been coaching 16 years. And so we always have new coaches or trainers coming into the arena. And I feel like it's a moral obligation, professional obligation to share with you the following. If you have a coach and they give you an exercise and you feel pain, they should immediately be able to give you a regression or progression. It shouldn't be one size fits all. Actually, so any exercise like that, to answer your question, use a bench, go down, go out, go up, confirm with progressions. Because if you're assuming that you could do certain exercise that somebody has no knee pain, you're taking on too much risk. So that's my answer to that question. Anything to add on that, Jen?
No, I was gonna say, yeah, burpees is, I don't know how it got so like infamous. Like burpees are the world's best exercise or whatever, but there's so much to a burpee. And like Chris said, break it down into those pieces is so critical, because we don't want to go all or none. We want to be able to go middle ground. And he just demonstrated a perfect way to do that. And I would say, okay, if you're still getting pain with that, then how's your single leg balance? Take it all the way back. How's your single leg single squat? Not a piston squat, just a little bit of a squat. That can tease out like, oh, I'm actually getting pain with just a really simple movement. Maybe I should get this checked out. You know what I mean? So that's where you have to tease it out. Mm-hmm.
And again, I didn't cover it here because there's so much here to cover. Confirm with progressions. I start people statically. So if you can't, so if somebody is not able to perform a movement in a static position, if you add velocity, chaos, force production, you're playing with the dragon's tail. And sometimes that dragon turns around and wreaks fire on that injury. So again, confirm with static positions. If you're ever talking with a practitioner, here's a good way to test if they're the real McCoy. Here's this exercise. Give me 3 regressions, give me 3 progressions. They should be able to do it on the spot, demonstrate it on the spot. They should be able to say or ask questions, is that better, worse, or the same? And then keep calling audibles like a veteran quarterback. So those, again, my key here is just make you luckier through awareness. And then Jen, what are some common, we got about 2 minutes here, and then we're gonna end it. What are some common things that you run into, or common questions or common mistakes that you see people making?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is posture is a really big one, and posturing or posture for just, I love how you brought up the awareness. That is so key, because if you're doing a squat, single leg, double leg, doesn't matter, and your knees are falling inward or they're going too outward, that's something to watch. So looking in the mirror and seeing that, it's a form of biofeedback. And your brain likes that, because they're like, oh, it doesn't hurt. And I see my knees tracking. I'm going to re-solidify that pattern, that muscular, neuromuscular pattern. And that can be really helpful. So really watching your posture, being aware of where your foot is and not being overly about it, but once you got it kind of thing, but just making sure you've got the biggest thing, like when you're single leg and you drop that hip, we call it Trendelenburg sign. And so just making sure that you're not just focusing on the knee, but you're focusing on what your hips and your core and your back is doing, because that's going to help your knee.
Yeah, it's based, what's that? My knee bone is connected to my hip bone.
Yeah, exactly. It's all that. It goes back to preschool.
It's very true. We're going to end on that note. I'm going to make this available for everybody. I know there's people that couldn't make this. If you have any further questions, like don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me at Terranova Fitness if you want to have a 5-minute conversation. Hey, Chris, that was a lot of great information you guys did. What's like my actionable step? We can help out with that too as well. I'm going to send this to you guys out next week in the recording too as well. I just want to thank you for coming on. If you're watching this live, if you're watching this on the replay, you're investing in your health and fitness. And I think especially now, health is wealth. I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Dr. Kinder. That's awesome.
So much for having me. You guys are awesome. I love Terranovafitness Fitness. You guys are so great. Chris is great.
I appreciate that a lot. And then I'll see you guys next time. Go enjoy the day. It's sunny. Enjoy some sunlight. Thanks for showing up.